Day. It's looking a bit sad for itself. Look at this poor Citroen CX. We will be doing a full video series on restoring this bad boy, showing you how to make panels and all sorts, but for today's video we're going to do two. We're going to be servicing it and putting a timing belt on it. Sorted. Hello and welcome to another Bodgit and Leggit video. Yes, we've got this 1979 Citroen CX 2 litre, and what we're going to do is we're going to be servicing it today, and I'm going to be doing another video where we're doing the timing belt. We are going to be doing a full restoration of this, but the customer wants to drive it over the winter just to keep the interior and all stuff good. Obviously we know we've got, you know, major issues with rust and stuff. We're going to sort all that out in loads of different videos. I'm going to be showing you how to make panels, how to repair panels, how to weld panels, what different type of welding, MIG, TIG, brass welding. We're going to be doing it all on this car and showing you all the different techniques you can use depending on what you're doing. But we need to see if this thing will start, and we need to obviously give it a wash, and we need to get it in the shed to actually do the jobs we're doing on it today. Now these can be a bit of a nightmare to move. As you can see, we've got essentially every warning light on the dash for this car, because they're so low, because the way the suspension works, because the way the steering works on the suspension. Oh, it's all blacking out for the sun. Yeah, you really need to start these to move these. You can't really tow them as such because just they're too low. So we're just going to turn it all off now because the fan belt's gone, so that's why the battery isn't charging. I've lifted it up to its fullest, and obviously we're a bit low on fuel, not fuel, but on stuff for the suspension, because what we need to do is, it's kind of like a service mode almost. If you're ever jacking these up or anything, you have to make sure they're lifted up to the fullest before you jack them up, because you can damage all the suspension. This is the only Citroen CX in the world with electronic ignition. Now, what I mean by that is there's two different types when you get these 2 litre engines, two different types of distributors. One you can buy a full kit for and just plug and play electronic ignition. This particular one you cannot. They do not make a kit. They don't do anything for this particular distributor. Don't know why, but they just don't. So I have done videos on how I made this electronic ignition, and when you look at it, it looks absolutely perfect. It looks exactly the same as a normal distributor. As the normal distributor that came on with it. Actually, should I do this? Maybe it's not a good idea with it being brittle. And again, looks fairly normal, but it's inside that business end that if you watch the videos, you will see exactly what I've done. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to do a basic service, because we are going to be going through, once we strip this, we are going to be splitting the body when we're doing the recovery, when we're doing the restoration. So this is basically built on a frame, so we can take the body off. We will be going through the whole engine then, you know, rebuilding the carburetors, checking everything, you know, going through everything like you essentially would. I'm not going to do it on this service because he's just going to be driving it for a few months for the winter, but we will be doing it a lot more in depth on other videos, so stay tuned for that. Things like the water pump and stuff like that, it's all going to be done on kind of separate videos. If you was going to be doing a service, you would obviously normally be checking your points and stuff at this time, but we haven't got any points, so we don't have to do anything like that. You know, check your carburetor, everything, but we're going to be rebuilding essentially all this, so there's no point going into it too much now. What we are going to do, just basic service. So first thing we need to do is run the engine, get it nice and hot. We do have to be careful because we haven't got our fan belt on, and our fan belt drives our water pump. So I can't have this running for too long, but I can get the engine warm, and yeah, so let me just kind of do that, and we'll drain the oil. Scary thing or unique thing, depending on how you look at it, with these cars, as you can see, this wheel's completely flat. Now I didn't drive it far, literally a 5-second drive, so I mean just from one end of the farmyard to the other, it's not far, but you cannot feel when you've got a flat tire. That tire did not feel flat. Even if you used to drive 60 miles an hour down the road, you will not know that tire is flat until you start seeing bits of shredding and then sparks coming everywhere because you're on the rim. You just cannot tell. And you can actually drive home with 3 wheels on these. Same with the DS, same with the, well, there's a lot of them you can do it, but the DS and the SM obviously, and the CX. So there we go. Look at that lovely rust. We're going to sort all that out. Right, for this particular car, the spark plugs are ridiculously expensive. They're like a modern day, the price of them is like a modern day platinum plug. Where normal spark plugs, you know, they're only a couple of quid each, where these are quite expensive. But I'm going to show you the oil filter, and the reason is, you can see we have to take the spare wheel off. The spare wheel just sits there, and the oil filter, you can see that, is right there, but there's only enough room for 3 fingers. You will not be able to get it from here. You can just kind of see it. Now you can take this off, which is the intake for the, you know, for the heater and everything inside. But you do have to be careful, because at the end of the day, this is an old car. You can start, you know, causing issues, breaking bolts and all sorts of stuff. So it's like everything, you have to be careful. And when I put my hand in the way, even with my head cam, I'm not going to be able to show, because I'm going to have to kind of, you have to do it blind. You just put your hand in and kind of do it blind. You can't, like, you just can't see it. Look, it's a nightmare. So I've got the car jacked up. We're going to drain the oil first, let the oil come out, and then we're going to take off the oil filter. Right, as you can see, yes, we've got a lot of oil leaks. It doesn't look great under here, but again, once we take the engine out, we will sort all that out, because you can't actually take the engine sump off, I don't think, without having to lift the engine up. Not necessarily take it out, but you have to certainly lift it up to clear the subframe, because the subframe is part of the actual frame of the car. It's not a separate subframe. The car is built on a chassis, so it's all one. Now, to get the oil or the air filter off, for fuck's sake, the sump plug, it's an S5/16. You can see now, hopefully you can kind of see just how bad this is going to be. I'm not sure myself. It'll be awkward filming this, but yeah, it's very black, very thin, very, very black. So we'll let that drain off and do the oil filter next. This might seem obvious to certain people, but maybe not to everybody. When you jack your car up, look at where your sump plug is and jack the car up the opposite end. So in other words, if your sump plug's on the right, there's no point jacking your car up, because all the oil can't come out. So jack it up so where it kind of forces the oil to come out. It just makes it a little bit easier. Once you jack it up, obviously make sure you've got, you know, axle stands, wheel chocks and all that. And then we can just let that drain. Always another good thing is to loosen this. Now again, it's like everything. You leave this off and allow crap to get in, but you always kind of take it off a little bit, do something with it, so you kind of know that there's no oil in it. I always just take it off. You can put something over there if you want, but I take it off so you know that there is an issue, you've got no oil in, because believe me, you can get easily distracted, and before you know it, you're going to start the car with no oil. So yeah, just let all that drain off. I'm going to actually do is I'm going to take off all the intake system here, not the intake for the engine, but the intake for the, you know, the heater and matrix and the heater inside. Then we can get to the filter from the top. It's just a lot easier. Depending on what Citroen you have, they're in different places and you have to do different things. They're just kind of annoying to work on. They're not difficult. All the Citroen guys out there who think, or not think, who say they're really hard to work on and they're this and only special people can work on them. They are difficult to work on. You know, you have to take a lot more things off to get to something, but it's not difficult in that sense. It's just taking more stuff off. It's more awkward than difficult. And they like to say that because they like to, you know, say, oh, only specialists can work on them, and, you know, you pay them 10 times more. And when someone shows how to do it, they don't like it. So, but yeah, so I'm going to take off this, and then we're going to get to the filter from the top. It's just going to be easier. Right, the way it comes off, there's a bracket here, 10mm. And then what you get on it is you get these special little clips which hold down these little tabs. But as you can see, some of them are actually missing. I've released one tab, and of course the other tab is right in there. Can we get to it? Can we see it? Focus. You can get to, you kind of see it. And all the others are missing, but the hardest one to get to is the one that stayed on, which is under here. So you have to like remove the air bottle, or the water bottle, sorry. This is the thing, like to remove the water bottle, just remove that clip. To remove this and another piece just to get to the oil filter, it's just annoying. Why isn't my camera focusing? Focus. Great. There we go. So yeah, just let me work on this for a few minutes and I'll turn the camera back on. Right, so we got this off. This is the two parts to it. Once you take this bit off, it's just two 10mm bolts here. It's a bit fiddly, but you can get it out. You do have to remove the bottle. And once you remove the bottle, now we can actually see the steering and all the pipes going to the steering and everything, and we can see the motor. But most importantly, we get, there we go, look. Now we can get to the oil filter. And yeah, but this is what I love about Citroen, the older Citroens. Can anyone tell me what that motor is for? See if anyone can get it right in the comments. What would you think that motor would be for? And it's on the side of the air intake for the car, you know, for the heater system. What do you think it is? Comment down below. I'm just going to get this out, no point in me filming it because again there's hardly any room. Even with all this out there's still hardly any room. Just going to get filter off, screw the new one on, put the new oil in, put this back together, boom. Right, we've got it off, and it is awkward. You can't see what you're doing. You just kind of have to put your hand down there. You might be wondering how I took it off. I got this, I don't know how long ago. It's a Sealy Prime. It wasn't that expensive, and Sealy Prime is like Sealy's kind of top end tool. But the good thing about it is it's self like adjusting. So when you put it on, look, see that? It actually adjusts itself. So all you've got to do is clamp it as hard as you possibly can. This runs across them teeth then, and it self-adjusts itself, and it grabs, and it what's allow me to actually get it off. And the fact that it's kind of got a 45-degree kink really helped me as well. The straight one, I've got that a normal adjustable straight one, and it wouldn't work because I just couldn't get in there. This is at a 45-degree angle, the filter is, and the fact that this is, I think it's 45 degrees, I'm not sure, but anyway, it's at an angle, and that allowed me to get that in, allow the legs to come out a lot more, which allowed me to actually take it off. So get in there now, hopefully. There you go, brand new one is on. Here we go, boom. Now just 3 hours putting it all back together just for a filter. You gotta love the French. So when you get this back on, that the rubber and the strap is actually good, because obviously, you know, it can affect how much air you're getting inside your car. But the other thing is, these straps can obviously rust. Now, I don't know if you can actually buy these from Citroen or buy them from somewhere, but I'm guessing they'd be quite expensive. So what you can actually do is, these are very similar straps to what they use on CV joints. I don't mean the ones that you have to pre-cushion. You buy this in a roll, and it's very, very cheap. You get a special tool then, which again is very, very cheap, and it allows you to make this any size you want, bend it around, and you know, so you can do that very, very cheap. You don't have to go down the route of buying the special one for this, and that can save you a good few quid. Right, so it's all back, the spare wheel's back. Just got to put the oil in there now, new filter. Now I'm going to leave the air filter off for the minute. The reason why I took all this off ages ago is because this car hadn't been started in a while when I moved it to the new place, and the lift pump's a bit dodgy, and it wasn't sucking the petrol through. So we took that out, blocked it with a hand, which then forced it to pull up the petrol. So I'm not going to put the new filter on just yet, because I'm going to have to take it all off. That's the old one, and have to take all this off to get to the timing belt when we do that tomorrow. So I'm not going to. All it is there's 3 little clips, takes the lid off, pop that one off, pop the new one on, and it's simple as that really. So I'm not going to do that today because I've got to take all that off, but what we will do, is after I put the oil in, we will be putting the new plugs in. This was the oil that came out of it, very, very black, very, very thin, not great at all. Right, just how good is electronic ignition, I hear you ask? Well, this is a 1979 car. This hasn't been started in months, apart from when I started it like 3 or 4 hours ago. I don't know how many hours ago it was to get it in here. But apart from that, it hasn't been started in a while. And the lift pump's a bit dodgy. But, and I have to have my van on it because there's no alternator, the battery's gone. But anyway, so, are you ready? Electronic ignition, look at that, boom! We do have a choke, but how easy, oh, the light is maybe, hang on, is the light making it worse? But anyway, electronic ignition, how good is that? Guarantee you, a normal one of these wouldn't have started that easy. Right, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to let this run through, get all the oil pressure up, get it all run around the engine, double check it, and we can do the plugs. Right, you can see where the oil has been dripped over a period of time and saved it, the rock cover, from going rusty compared to everything else. Oil's a great protector. Right, what we're going to do now is just replace the plugs. My jump leads are on, but these plugs are very expensive considering, you know, normal plugs, let's say. So we got them, we've got everything. We're just going to take, again, if you're unsure, especially with plugs, you want to take one off at a time, especially with HT leads, because you don't want to get them mixed up, even though number 1 can't go into number 4 and vice versa. But still, take one out at a time, screw them in all the way by hand, screw them out. You know, don't be tempted just to put them in and then start ratcheting it up, because you won't know if you've cross-threaded it. So screw it all the way in by hand first, and then just nip them up at the end with the correct tools. Pop. Shouldn't really do this one-handed, because if that falls. Right, for this I'm just using a stubby ratchet because the carburetor is kind of in the way as such, and there's a lot of stuff, especially this side. It's not too bad when you further get on, but these can be a bit awkward, and you don't really want to be putting something long here, breaking something, because when you work on an old car, what you got to remember is everything's very old. So, you know, plastic can be very brittle. You can see this arm here for the throttle cable, you know, very, very easy breaking that. And it's not just that we can go down the road and get another one the next day. It's not that it'll be expensive, it just, well, it could be, but it's more the fact that how long it's going to take to actually get. And so just be careful. Also, with the new plugs, I'm actually going to be opening up the gap a little bit more, because we've got electronic ignition in here and we can get away with it just for a nicer burn. But what you want to be very, very careful is that you put the right plugs back in, or if they're the same, different make, but they're the same size. So in other words, if you look, these are slightly different, but when I line up the actual ends of them together, which is there, oh, you can see that they're both exactly the same length. Now, if I was to, I'm talking about where they bottom out. So if I was to bring that up, oh, it's not going to do it, are you? Just knew it. If I was to bring that up there, it looks like this one's longer, but it isn't. It's because where it bottoms out, the 16mm part here is actually wider than this part. So that's why you just line it up. Oh, this is just turning into a bit of a mess. So you just line it up where it actually bottoms out. There we go. And there we go. Absolutely perfect length. Perfect. These plugs, these new ones, are a lot better than the old ones. And like I said, I'm going to open it up slightly to make it burn nicer, because we've got more powerful ignition on this. Now, what I mean by screwing it in by hand is you want to screw it in by hand. Now, it's really funny. I actually showed this tool. It's made by Facom, and it is redonkulously expensive for what it is, like ridiculously expensive for what it is. But I like my gadgets, right? And if I was to show a tool, and I say to people, oh yeah, look, you know, it does this, and oh, that's too expensive, you're just doing that, blah, 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 blah. I then say on a video, do not buy this, it's ridiculously expensive for what it is. And everybody in the comments was sharing links with people to where to buy it, because everyone wanted it. So I can't win. I told people not to buy it, and they went out and bought it. So I just don't know. Anyway, but the fact with this is, now you don't need something like this. It's just you can put it in here and it holds it nice. It actually, you can take the spark plug out with it as well. But what it allows you to do is get it in there, get it down the hole without doing any damage, and it allows you to actually spin it by hand all the way in. We can straighten this up. Spin it by hand all the way in, and then we just pop it out and we nip it up with the ratchet, because you want to feel if it can go in. You can't really cross thread it with your fingers because it's just not strong enough. And even if you was, this would slip. It wouldn't allow it to. But when you even a small ratchet like that, if you're not used to it, it would allow you to cross thread it. So just be very, very careful. And I said in the video, like, why would you need this to bend like that? And actually it's going to come in handy for this now. So there we go. But yeah, everyone was asking what number it was. I think it's rubbed out now. Anyway, it's made by Facom, but like I said, don't buy it. it's pointless. You can just use a tube that you get off an old car for free. I just like my gadgets. Right, you can hear my van ticking away in the background. I'm just trying to put a little bit more power into this battery because I need to start this engine again for a couple of reasons. One, just let the oil circulate, let it fill up the filter, see how much more oil I need to put in from the dipstick. And the other thing is to test these spark plugs to make sure they're okay. There's a couple of things you can do. You can mark each individual plug lead with Tipp-Ex or something like that so you know where it goes if you want to take them all out at once. Sometimes when you're putting them back in, they don't feel great. You just have to kind of be used to them to kind of know that they're in. But what you can also do is, after you've put one spark plug in, just start the car and see if it's okay. If it starts missing, you know, well, that's the one you've just used or just taken out and put in, so it might not be a good connection on it, and then it'll help you that way. Now you do have to be careful. Stop starting a car for a few seconds isn't great for it. It's not great for the new plugs, but after a couple of minutes they'll clean up. It's not a problem because you can tell an awful lot by the plugs. These plugs are all black. Now again, you can't really go too much into detail because this car hasn't been used in a long time, and it's only been started in the last 6 months, maybe 5 or 6 times started and stopped, so it hasn't really been ran properly. But you can see how easy it starts with all this new electronic conditioning. So I'm going to now start it. Let's see how easy it starts now again. Ooh, ah, ooh, ah. Choke is on, I think. And boom, sounds good. It's not missing. No, I love these dials too. They remind me of the tyre pressure valves when you're pumping your tyre up. How it's a rolling. It's just, I like it. The speedo's the same. It's really cool. So I'm just going to let this just tick over for a few minutes and then we're going to see. Like I said, I can't keep it running for long because we've got no water pump circulating in a minute. I've just topped up the hydraulic fluid. You can see we're bang on the marks there now, so that should turn off the lights, and just let this tick over for another few minutes. Check everything, make sure there's no leaks on the filter, make sure there's no leaks on the sump, and then the basic service is practically done. Did that just rhyme? Ah, boom! Right, the only light we've got flashing now is the battery light because, well, we're not charging. So we'll just drop it to the normal height. It's dropping now, and make sure it's okay. You can see it dropping. Maybe you can't, but believe me, you see from my leg going up the door. That's it, we'll do it that way. So my leg's on the door now. If I raise it up, we'll just see. Give it a bit of a helping hand. Look at my leg. Look at that. So my knee is just level with the door pocket now, and if I drop it all the way down, let's see how far she can go. You ready? Trying to keep everything still. There we go. Boom. Sorted. So that's all good. Just a few more checks and that's it. Right, we'll finish the video off in here because it's a very nice place to finish the video off. And as you can see, it's running sweet. Ticking over absolutely lovely. Really quiet considering the age of the car, and all the hydraulic system is good. And then tomorrow we're going to get that battery light off, and we're going to do a timing belt. We're going to do everything else in a separate video, but this is how to do a very basic service. If you want to know how to go more in depth, once I release all the other videos, or once I do all the other videos on restoring this car, when we're getting into the engine, I'm going to show, you know, the rebuilding of everything in the engine. So like the lift pumps, the intake system and all that. So, you know, if you are having an issue with it, you can kind of see it in them other videos. I just obviously haven't done it yet, but it's a thing you're gonna have to keep an eye on, especially on an older car like this. So that's it. So as always, hope it helps. Please like, share, comment and subscribe. Don't forget, links up here, links down below, but most importantly, don't forget, get your hands dirty. See you for the next one. Sorted. Self-centering steering ready. Boom.